Okay, hello, welcome everybody. This is a conversation after installment 7, which was chapters 42 to 50, but it's a free-for-all to share experiences, ask questions, wonderings, anything that you disagree with, especially anything disturbing. Go for it. Let's quick introductions. I'm Christina and I'm outside of Boston. Go ahead, Stephen.
Well, I was just recently introduced to Journey, and I've been quite taken by it. And it's a similar feeling when I started. Well, my history is I started with the Way of Mastery, and then I went to A Course of Love, and I had a similar feeling in engaging both those texts in the beginning. And this just feels very exciting. And one of the things that I was thinking about that is, I don't know, it means something to me, but that we're alive at the very time that this message is being given. You know, in my background, I have a Christian background, and so the way I relate to it is like the epistles of Paul to the people in different cities around Asia. They were living at the time when that was written, and it was very relevant.
Oh, yeah.
And so I see a parallel there. But then in my experience reading the text, like just before the call, I was listening to chapter 30, and it addresses the times that we're in.
Yes.
And it does so in a very wonderful way, not minimizing, but also saying, yeah, well, you're safe.
Exactly. Yes.
Powerful.
Yes. I'm glad you're enjoying it. How can I ask how you came across it, how you were introduced to it?
A friend of mine, and you may know her, Anjula Ram.
Oh, yes. That's lovely. She was very taken with it too, so that's great.
Yeah, she and I have a weekly conversation. She's in Great Britain, and so we connect.
Yeah, we've talked a few times. Yeah. That's great. That's great. Yeah, she was one of the first people who really loved it. So Judy, introduce yourself.
Yeah, Judy Young on San Francisco. I studied Course in Miracles, Course of Love, Way of Mastery for years. The Course in Miracles back in the 80s. Actually, I still do the lessons every day because I just like being reminded. Course of Love, I'm just doing the 40 days again with the group. Probably be my last time up the mountaintop. I've been up there a number of times with groups. It's nice being kind of the person that takes them there and or is with them there. And then, and now Journey, which is, just very glad to see it show up. Very glad, especially this time in our lives. Really, very much so.
It's very much a message that says it's time to claim all the work you've done has brought you here. So claim that sovereignty, and be the love in the world. So, John, welcome. I know you're walking and you're muted, which is fine. Because
I can tell about John.
Sure,
I don't think he'd mind. John and I have studied together a long time. John also is from San Francisco, and he is on the 40-day process with me in the journey. He was a reluctant Course of Love person, one of those that, really liked the Course in Miracles. And then he managed to kind of get through it 2-3 years ago or something like that. And now when he found out I was doing it again, he wanted to do it again. And now he is thoroughly embracing it and he loves the journey, just absolutely loves it. So he, it's been interesting watching John not quite get it or being resistant to it or whatever that is if you don't totally embrace it the first time around, to how much it just is clicking for him now. And it's nice to hear that excitement in his voice. So, yeah.
That's a perfect illustration of everything in perfect time, and everyone is different. And that's kind of what I'm kind of growing into, that allow everyone to have their experiences, but be be the presence of love. But I just want to, in this particular installment, there was something in chapter 49 that I absolutely loved. It says, allow yourself to put the books down and express the information they conveyed to you. Who else can do what you do in the way you do it? And that's what the call is. That's so perfectly put. So whenever you finish this particular trip to the mountaintop or whatever, it really is a call to, I guess the course of love calls it to elevate itself a form, to really be the accomplished, own that, so I love that. So John, glad to have you here. I know if you unmuted yourself, you'd start squeaking and squawking, but I'm glad you reintroduced you. So so go ahead, guys, whatever you want to talk about.
Stephen, you mentioned you did a Way of Mastery Course of Love. Did you ever study A Course in Miracles, or of it?
I'm very aware of it, and I can't say I've read the entire book. I just kind of dabbled in it, but that was before I got into the Way of Mastery, and I guess my mind just wasn't tracking with the language and the way it speaks. But now I can go. I've had the experience of going back and reading it and really beginning to understand it. But I'm kind of on a different trajectory right now. I'm going with the journey.
Yeah. And if you need to, you'll go back to it. I mean, it's like each moment is new. How do I know? I mean, I might open up A Course in Miracles one day as well. It's just like all things are possibilities. And the important thing for me is to try as best I can to be in the moment and listen and pay attention to what's in front of me.
Yes.
And there's plenty marching by in front of me. It's not just watching a parade go by and doing nothing. It's being in that place of presence, paying attention with clear eyes, and knowing what arises within me is either to be looked at and dissolved, or perhaps once that's done, there could be actions I need to take to do my part in the only way I know. So I mean, all the books are valuable, all of them to be respected and laid aside when we are ready, So it's a very interesting time.
And when I began reading and listening to Journey, one of the things that one of the concepts that really caught my attention, and mainly because it's something that I've been doing, but I haven't been able to put words to it. And it was sort of gratifying, but it's the chapter 13 where it talks about reactivity, and how, in my life, I'm one of those people that has had a temper, and people often view me as angry, and I've done a lot of work toward that, but toward coming through that and finding out its source and allowing the energy to pass through and all that. But in that chapter, it talks about how this reactivity, it's in everybody. And I guess I didn't realize that everybody had that in their own way. But the knee-jerk reactions and learning to catch myself to interrupt or intervene in that process of reactivity to where I can step back and have a more objective view and see this isn't really what's going on here. My mind is just a little bit out of control. And, I've been able to catch myself, and it's a very powerful process it talks about in that chapter. And I don't know.
Mhm.
I've found it very helpful.
Yeah, yeah. And it's that pause, the pause and the breath
That's right.
and paying attention to what's going on inside. I mean,
Yeah.
we're so used to looking at the outside and, responding right away or fixing something out there, but it's like more and more so I can hang out with what's going on within me
Yeah.
first. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard, really hard.
And and it all starts with that, with the idea that we don't really know what anything is or is for.
Right,
Of course, in miracles, right? That's the
exactly.
lesson.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So, the thing is, I'm so used to that feeling being attached to an expression of anger that I've never really stopped and allowed that feeling to tell me what it's about.
Ah,
Right?
Mm.
And so I have not known what that feeling is or is about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, at risk of it being different for other people, I want to say that I feel that we are trained very much in a sort of a linear mental masculine kind of way. And if we were allowed and trained to express all our feelings, there'd be much less anger. But I know I have expressed anger many times when I'm really hurt or sad or, you know, feeling just lost. And it's like it comes out as an attack. So, yeah. And being non-reactive is that neutrality. It's called 0 point neutrality. It's called divine neutrality. It's being in that place the Course of Love talks about, where you are in the center and able to choose your experience. That place of being in the center. Being centered is what a lot of people would say, but of course, Love talks about it very much so. I think it uses an example of temperatures and the variation,
oh yes.
experiencing variation within the whole, and that's what it means to me. I'm looking at the chapter here. I brought it up on my screen, and there was something in it I wanted to, it talks about souls. It might not be in this chapter, but I thought I saw something here about you are non-reactive or mature souls don't do blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I guess I just wanted to say that don't be hard on yourself. The love begins at home, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, along with that reactivity comes the self-judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
Well,
blame, no shame, right?
yes, it's one of the reasons it's so beautiful to begin to see the results of working on that, where I'm not so knee-jerk. I'm not an angry guy anymore. It's really good.
Right. Which means there's more spaciousness.
Yeah.
Being in that space that allows holding space for whatever needs to happen, be that spaciousness for ourselves, first of all. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Thank you. It's lovely.
So Christina, can I ask you what's your involvement in Journey, and how do you come to lead this group? And tell me, I'd like to know a little bit about you.
Well, if you're using the word lead as being an example, I will accept that. Because I don't feel in any way that I'm leading anything. The simple answer to your question is I studied A Course in Miracles for quite a long time. And then I found A Course of Love maybe 11, 12 years ago. And the person who received Journey, Rick Greathouse, who again sends his apologies, he's a teacher and has not been able to be at the last 2 meetings. And he thought he could be here today, but he just texted and said he couldn't. And he's in San Francisco, where Judy is. He had been working with A Course of Love for a few years, and this came through him, and he sent the manuscript that he had written down to the publisher, to Mari, actually, Mari Perone. And after that, because she was on sabbatical, he sent it to Glenn Hoffman. So that's how I came across it. Glenn sent it to a bunch of people, and I was on his email list back in April. And I read it, and I knew this was really important. And after about 6 weeks or so, I realized that the Cause of Love community as such, or the organization such as it is, which is very small, wasn't planning to do anything with it. So I just knew I had to do it. And this is not something I've ever done before. I've never stepped forward with anything like this, or certainly never done anything online, putting something out like this in installments online. But I found Joe Nagel, who is a wonderful website and social media wizard. And so between Rick and her, I'm in the middle, taking what he has given and putting it into a form that she can drop into the website. So that's my role. I mean, I'm just here for now. That's it. And doing these conversations for now. Who knows? I could stop with this one. If complete freedom, really. So yes, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much for that.
What motivated you to start reading them? Because I love listening to it and love your voice. But what motivated you to do that rather than not just not publish the written text?
Well, I never really thought about it, Judy. All of this just happened. It landed. I call it landed. It arose within me, or it landed is how it feels. I was absolutely certain that this was not to be published as a book the minute I read it. I mean, even before I read it, I knew it was important. I remember writing to Glenn before I'd even opened the PDF and saying there's something really important here. I felt it. Anyway, so after I'd read it, I was absolutely certain. I wrote and I said, this has to go out as quickly as possible as an ebook. And it has to be recorded. If Rick doesn't want to do it, I'm going to do it. And as quickly and as far spread as possible, because Rick has given it and he doesn't want anything for it. So I don't even know how to answer the question other than it was obvious. I was certain it had to be done that way. And then the rest of it also fell into place, meaning somehow I was extracting or distilling the question to live by, which I always stick in this, in the chat, which I think kind of crystallizes an action kind of thing. And also the pictures, it's short chapters. So it's like a whole experience,
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's different. So some people will read, some people prefer to listen. You can almost get the energy of it through the pictures, the beauty of the pictures or the meaning of the pictures. So I don't know. I just feel like I did my best to imbue every letter I typed as I transcribed and every word I read, with love.
Mm. Who picks the pictures? They are nice.
I do.
Oh,
It all lands for me. When it's, midweek, like I did it this morning, listening to my audio and this installment lands. I just know. I listen, and then I'm listening, saying, oh, not this one. I might listen one more. No, it stops with that one before, this time. And it's in the moment. So. And then the pictures also, sometimes I know exactly which one I want to use, and sometimes I just go through and it becomes clear. So they're all my pictures other than where a photo credit is given. And more people, I've found people are landing and it's like, may I use some of your photos? And the answer is always yes. So, yeah.
That's great.
It's a nice package.
It's an experience. Thank you. It really is. You see, this is the thing with, A Course in Miracles was very dense. It's meant for the mind. It's kind of biblical in a way. I know it's iambic pentameter and very dense and heavy, but it was for the mind, for people whose minds needed to receive the linear information that way and to make room in the mind. And the Course of Love is not at all like that. Many people said this is not the real deal because it was so different to A Course in Miracles, right? Mm-hmm. But it was poetic and it reached the heart. There was enough space in the mind for it to reach the heart and the heart to grow stronger and pull the mind into wholeheartedness. And now Journey has arrived for our time in a contemporary punchy, simple, direct language. It's like, I loved it because it's my language. It's how I talk, you know? And that's another reason now people are saying, well, this isn't real. It's nothing like A Course of Love. It's nothing like A Course in Miracles. But it's going to reach people it needs to reach. That's it. It's as simple as that. And bless everyone who takes a moment to look at it. If it resonates, that's great. If it doesn't, that's perfect. It's perfect. If bits of it resonate, great. If bits don't, just walk on.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the simplicity is, I listened to it several times, like, you know, I do listen and read together to kind of proof
Yes.
what
You can just
sentences
keep
might have
sending
been
me all the
left
little
out.
errors. It's great.
There's a little glitch in the system where a written sentence is left out, and I catch those and let her know. But the thing is, and then it's immediately corrected. But you know, 2 or 3 paragraphs to a chapter, deceivingly simple, but really powerful. And that's what I like about it. It's like, and I was thinking today, I see that come in on a Saturday, and I like a kid at Christmas. Oh, good, here's another installment. And you know, and so, and I was thinking about that. It's to read this, like, even if you just got it now and you read 49 chapters, one right after another, I don't think it would land as well as it does if you read a few chapters a week and even a couple paragraphs a day. And yeah, really deceivingly simple.
Yeah, it's certainly not a book to be read. It is a message that you...
Which is why listening to you read it is also very special.
Yeah, I mean, on this particular installment, there were at least a couple of things where this, as you just said, a single sentence meant so much to me. Yeah. One of them was where it says, take care of your needs and share what's left over. Because I know I've been with people and a school of thought that says if you're really going to be a spiritual person in the world, you need to be living in poverty. You know, you need to give away everything and leave and go on this. No, I love how it says, I am part of the picture. Take care of my needs and share what's left. I just love that. That is so powerful. And the other sentence, I wrote it down, was at the last chapter, chapter 50. Love was it all about freedom? Was it 49? No? Did it stop at 49? Yeah, no, it was about the freedom to do exactly. You are free, you are truly free. Even a prisoner can be free. Mm-hmm. And freedom is not something I've truly experienced until this year, to be honest. I mean, my own imprisonment. I'm not talking about anyone else. Tell me about that for you guys. I'm really interested about freedom.
Well, I've always felt pretty free because I have no children, no husband, no bill.
Oh, that's the problem. Okay. Children and husbands.
Yeah. You know, and so really no obligations like that. And so I've been able to do volunteer work and my gardening and my classes, the phone classes that I do, and we read books together. And the mask thing and having to stay in and not being able to, all the social distancing and things like that, don't really bring me, actually not being able to go outside yesterday because of the smoke bothered me more than social distancing. And breath is so important to our life, our well-being. And so that was bothersome yesterday. But freedom, you know, like freedom is when you have nothing else to lose or something, the Dylan song, whoever's saying that. But so I've had that much freedom, but so I've also noticed that if I don't feel free, it's my own problem. It's my own thing that I'm putting on myself. And now I have to laugh. It's kind of like, gee, if I even wanted to travel, now I can't. So there goes that there's a freedom that's gone. so moving about freely has been restricted, but it's not bothering me that much in that way. I get more bothered when my heart starts going out to now the victims of the fires, the people that have families unable to work, kids having to go back to school. I got a picture of my little 4-year-old grandniece, and they're in line. She's in pre-kindergarten, I guess, at 4. And the kids are 6 feet apart and they have their little masks on. And I went, that broke my heart, because I thought these kids can't even really play together. I mean, it just boggles my mind, It's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out in years to come.
Well, Journey says it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Hang on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. And it also says that freedom is of the soul. So how we respond to these things that are happening is what it's calling us to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And
Well, you know, I'm sorry.
Please, Stephen.
I just thinking that Journey has a conversation about this, what I think A Course of Love talks about as observation, where we see what's truly there, not stopping at what presents itself to our immediate senses, but really seeing what's truly there. And you know, that's a challenging thing, but I think if I can bring that to my presence of mind as I'm doing my life, you know, to see what's really there, and that it will make a huge deal in the freedom that I experience.
Right. Exactly. So that's the thing that has been hard for me to get to, no matter what is happening outside of me, to have, and that is, I'm just tasting that in the last year or so,
Yes.
that freedom. And it is absolutely, observation is how A Course of Love talks about it, with clear eyes. And what we see with our eyes is not false, it is only a partial truth.
That's the distinction
that's really important.
Yeah.
Because in misinterpretation can be that, oh, that's an illusion, it's not really happening, you know. And we're being asked by Journey, don't put your head in the sand, you know.
Yeah.
Look at it. But then Course of Love goes on to describe observance, which is where you are observing with the eyes of the heart and the eyes of the soul. And that's when the unfolding and the embrace happens. And anything that's when that presence kicks in, you know, and miracles can happen. And that's what we have to look forward to, alone together, as we practice that, you know. That's
So
how
I listened, I'm sorry, were you
No,
done?
please.
I listened to a video about lucid dreaming, and not just dreaming, but in this waking state, meaning co-creating, basically. And the man who's talking right now, I can't remember his name, but anyhow, he was saying, like, when you are dreaming, he goes, where's that light coming from in a dream? It's not the sunshine, your eyes are closed, it's dark. So where's that light coming from? And I went, well, boy, there's a thought, huh? And so it's in our mind. And then he said, instead of just seeing things with your eyes, why don't you go behind your eyes and see it? And I was thinking, step back and let him lead the way, also Christ's vision and all of those things. Yeah. But I mean, that really kind of sparked a little bit something in me about that, seeing beyond what's just the eyes show.
Yes.
And so I've been playing with that. It's been
absolutely. That's a great point, because, you know, from the very beginning, when I began studying A Course in Miracles, because I used to get up very early in the morning, 5:30, you know, before getting the kids up and going to work. And I would sit there, and it was just kind of dawn and a little bit of light. But sometimes I would be in this strange place that I call the shimmering. it was like if I softened my gaze, you know, after I'd studied, or I was also listening. I think at that time I might have been going through it for the umpteenth time, but listening to cassettes. I invested in the whole thing of audio cassettes. This is back in the early 90s. And I was reminded of that the other day, because that was like around sort of a seeing thing that kind of changed. It became a little flickery. But the thing that I wanted to say was, do you remember those magic eye pictures that were very
Oh, I still
popular?
have some.
So the way you see the picture, if you just look at it, right,
It's a
you don't
mess.
see anything. You just see all the stuff, right? But you have to soften your gaze. And I know there's a scientific explanation for whether it's stems or whatever that's working in your eyes, you know, but the point is you soften your gaze, gentler, softer, and suddenly, without any effort, what's hidden in there, whether it's a space shuttle or something, just pops at you. And it's a very similar feeling.
Yes.
It is a softening and taking away any judgment.
And
I
in
mean,
this case, it's a feeling that's not just the eye functioning, it's the third eye with the heart, the high heart, and the body. That's what we're coming to. We're embodying, we're just beginning the embodiment process. And so that shimmering that I felt in my eyes is now settling into the body. And sort of, it began as a sort of a trembling feeling, and now I call it the trimmering, putting both together, because it's like settling a little bit. But it is going to be in the body. That's what's very exciting, the embodiment. Because the elevated self of form.
Inform, yeah.
Right. And our DNA is changing. We are beginning to be able, as you described, to carry the light, to be the light, to be that light. And everyone can do that. You know, everyone has that opportunity. It's such an amazing time on the planet. Amazing.
Actually, children have that ability, but they're talked out of it.
They come plug ready. Certainly the ones born in the last 20, 30 years. You know, the young ones, and especially the most recent births. I mean, they call them star children. You know, there's different names. Originally was the indigo children, you know, who came to disrupt things. I mean, they were the most difficult and had the most difficult lives. I mean, many of them took their own lives because they just didn't fit in. They were there in a very, very difficult way. And then there's been the crystals, who are pure love, who showed us how to love. And then the rainbows, and now they say the auroras are coming. But they're plug ready. They don't need to study any books. They just need us not to
interfere.
Right. yeah, definitely. So I'm sorry, I will go on and on forever. I can talk, so I'm going to shut up. You guys talk.
Well, I tell you, Christina, I'm sort of with Jude here. Your voice is magnificent on those tapes. I don't know if you need a second career, but you could do that.
Well, I love the words, the message.
Yeah.
And it's so meaningful to me when I read it.
Yeah. Well, and it's a great gift to us too.
Thank you. I mean, I've been waiting my whole life for this in a way it feels, you know. And also, I've kind of been living this way for a while and feeling a little bit odd on the edges of the communities, you know, because I've never joined Course in Miracles study groups. And I never really felt I wanted to even be in a Course of Love sharing group. I mean, I tried a few times, you know, did some things, but, and it kind of landed in me as, this is what I was waiting for.
Huh.
And I feel so grateful that I have a neutral place from which to do this. Co-creating clarity was a practice I began about 11 years ago. So there's a place to do it that's not under any banner or umbrella. It's a pure freedom, a place of freedom for people coming together as clear pools flowing into each other. That's what it's all about.
I have to take this.
Yeah. And a couple of years ago, I began something called Indra's Net, which was a metaphor I was introduced to by a friend of mine, Mark Greenfield, who's a quantum scientist. And I'm very much into quantum science too. And it's a metaphor that's 4,500 years old. It comes from the ancient Indian Vedas. It's the Atharva Veda, where it talks about the origins of the multiverse and how the great god Indra created the multiverse by stringing this net, an infinite net in all directions, you know, and all through time, infinite net. And at every node on the net, he hung a jewel. And the jewel was so craftily crafted that it faceted, that it reflected every other jewel. And the whole thing is consciousness. And we are unique jewels within this net.
That's so beautiful. Wow.
So just, you can go to co-creatingclarity.com and you'll find all of it. I share everything. My entire life's experience is there. So, yeah.
I can look at that. Yeah. So
go ahead.
I would like to, you know, correspond with you if you'd be interested in that.
You mean,
like
you can try. His email is a little hard for me these days because there's so much going on in terms of writing, but I'd love to hear from you. Absolutely.
Okay, good. I'd just like to maintain contact.
Totally. I mean, yeah, anybody's free to do that. It's just that sometimes people like to have a lot of detailed conversations by email, and I find it brings me into my mind too much when I have to write. You know, sometimes you can accomplish a lot in a quick 10-minute, you know, call, much more than you could, because that's that connection that is, you know, the joining and the flowing into each other, which I love.
I hear that.
I love that.
I really do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just get a feeling like I'd like to be in touch with you.
Absolutely. I love it when people write to me. Yeah, totally. And I always respond. It may take some days, but.
Well, I'm the same way. So.
always. And yeah, of course, I hope you've signed up to get notifications of installments coming out.
Mm-hmm. Now, is Journey complete now, or is there more coming?
There's plenty more going to be released, but I believe Rick believes it's done. He's received everything.
Okay.
And that completed about 3 weeks ago, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
And so, I mean, you were at 49 chapters. Do you think it'll go up to 100 or?
Well, what he has received, I can tell you what he has received, which is 190 chapters.
Wow. It's hard to imagine that. I can't imagine what else is in there.
And when he sent it to Mari and then to Glenn, it was 100 chapters. And so he received those first 100 from February through April, February 11th through April 7th or something like that. And I saw it on April 21st. And then I believe he began receiving again in June or July through August.
I've noticed that he gets this in the very early in the morning.
It varies actually. It changed later on because it also speeded up. It began to be more chapters a day, like 3 chapters. And it's sort of interesting because there is a kind of urgency to it. And there isn't, because we're in quantum time. And everyone comes to it in their own way. And I follow a lot of more woo-woo, you know, people and sites to do with the new earth. And, you know, I love it. I weave it all together, and what resonates, it's all the same message. Yeah. And what it is that all these grids and gateways are rebuilt on earth and are open, and we each walk through in our own time. So absolutely trusting that people find what they need at the right time. For myself, I trust that. And I trust myself when I put these installments out. And I have no idea who it's reaching. I know my job is to put it out. Like Rick knew his job was to receive it and hand it off. My job is to get it out there. That's it. What happens next is none of my business.
I shared it with the people that have been in my other classes, Course in Miracles, Course of Love classes.
Right.
And well, John certainly grasped it. And then another Arca is reading it She has not been on these calls though, but so it's, you put it out there, and I might put it out there again a little while later and
Yeah.
just see. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm certainly not knocking on anybody's door.
Yeah.
You know, I figure
And
it's one of those things, much like, you know, it's just that when it lands, it lands,
exactly.
you know?
And whoever finds it is supposed to find it. Like right now, we have Stephen here who came across it. And I think that's going to continue happening for a very long time, because I don't think any of this is going to get, change overnight. We all have some distance to go in our own ability to land miracles on the planet, so it will happen, that much I'm sure. So even to begin with, this has only really been shared with people who signed up front, and also on the 2 Course of Love Facebook groups. And then I was invited to share on 2 other groups, which are a combination hybrid of Course in Miracles, Course of Love, and Beyond. So one was John Mark Stroud invited me to share it on Beyond Belief into Presence, and a woman by the name of Pia Ronquist, who is from Sweden, invited me to share it on her group, which is Be Free to Fulfill Your Purpose. But last week, I just wanted to say that I have now shared it a few days ago on the 4 major Course in Miracles Facebook groups, which I hadn't done before. I wrote a specific note, a very loving, welcoming note, and shared some quotes from A Course in Miracles, Course of Love, and from Journey, and put it out there. And I feel I am going to keep sharing every installment now on those same 4 groups, which is Open Minds, Course in Miracles, Gather, and I think Course in Miracles Study. So that's the first time I've done that. It was just a few days ago. So,
Someone had asked, and I've been thinking about this, because now in Journey, it talks about the elevated self of form. And, that was, I think her name was Lucille from a couple weeks ago. And she did A Course in Miracles, but she did not do A Course of Love. And
Lorraine, I think.
Oh, Lorraine.
Lorraine, right.
Oh, I thought Lorraine did, anyhow.
I thought she had done, but I can't remember.
Yeah, no, this was another woman that's only been on once. And the thing of it is that Lorraine's been on a number of times.
Yes.
And I was thinking about that, and it's like, well, it's not closed to anyone, except that I would hope that if they have questions about what is the elevated self and form, that they would ask them in this format on these calls. And also then maybe, direct them to A Course of Love. But it's, again, with the Course of Love, you build up to that. It's, so I don't know, I was thinking about that, but the elevated self of form, that's what we're getting into now, especially on the 40 days, the mountaintop experience. And it is, it's such that Christ conscious awareness is so, vital. It really is. That's where we're going with all of this. We're all Christ.
Right. That's absolutely. Yeah.
But that never became that clear to me in A Course in Miracles.
Yeah, but somebody else.
It doesn't say it. It's just that I didn't get it the way I got it in A Course of Love.
Me too. And yet I am absolutely sure that many people go all the way with A Course in Miracles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure many people go all the way with the Bible. So there are 7.9 billion ways.
Oh yeah, there's not one way, that's for sure.
Right.
That's for sure.
And again, it's not for us to worry about other people, but to be present in ourselves as mature souls as we can be, and listen to what's ours to do and share. And that's really where it is. And the world is always distracting us to think about other people and, is this right or is that right? And, it really is. That's why I think the Journey website is the way it is, because it's like, it's not about reading something, nor is it even about listening to something, because Mari did a beautiful recording of A Course of Love. It's about feeding your soul and lighting, strengthening your light so you can go out there and feed souls and be the light.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that from home too. Again, don't get me wrong. When I say go out there, I don't mean you have to go anywhere. If you're prompted, yes, you go somewhere, but or do something. But it's how we are together right now. Like right now, I'm feeling you all. We're joined. We're here. Our hearts are embracing each other. The flow is there. I feel it. And it's not in my mind or even in my heart. It's a whole body experience.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to be that way all the time, even when I'm mad at my husband, is my aspiration.
Yeah, well, I have a little anger issue too. That's probably why I never got married.
Oh, no.
Our relationships are our greatest teachers.
Yeah, I have plenty of friends that I can relate to.
Yeah, so this is, it's really pointing me away from anything out there into what is my response to it, And that's obviously been said in the other books as well, but to really, come home to that. And the chapter you draw attention to, Stephen, is exactly that. You are non-reactive now, and that's being that presence of love. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine what the world would be like if we were all simply the presence of love and light?
Well, we need to imagine that.
Yeah.
That's what we need to imagine more of. John Lennon's song, imagine there's no heaven, no hell.
And then we pull it in that deepest way. And a new earth is being birthed literally through us physically. Each one of us, as within, so without. It's not going to happen any other way. So there's a lot of people I know who say, well, I'm just waiting for everything to get back to normal. And,
what's normal? What is normal?
Exactly.
I know, I hear that too, and I go, no, I want it better. I've been listening to other, this is what I usually do, is I'm on the internet listening to inspiring speakers. And the one ended, it ended so beautifully, is that like, they said, well, you're so against the mask, you think it's a conspiracy, you don't think this is all true and all this other stuff, and you think it's this 1% wants to rule the world and all this stuff. And then at the end they said, but how, because of that, how do you feel, or what's your feelings right now, or whatever it is? Because I'm very hopeful. We have a chance to create a new world, and we really do. As everything else falls apart, and it will. So hang on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. I really get
You like that, huh?
Yeah, I do get that. I mean, because it's really true. Hang on to your hats. And because it probably is going to get worse before it gets better, but it's like the phoenix rising out of the ashes. You cannot, I think it said it in here, we don't even want to build on the old stuff because the old stuff wasn't even worth building on, and so, and it's kind of like, it's not a do-over, it's a do. It's a do from now on, from this moment.
All the things that trigger us. And if we go inside and pay attention to whatever's arising, whether it's anger or shame or whatever, is the equivalent breaking down of whatever needs to finish breaking down within us, so that we are, complete, and we fully remember ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And once we are fully remembered, then the new earth will arise,
It also, I think maybe in the first chapter of this last installment, something about you really got to get tired of it all, and you have that body self, and then the spiritual self can come.
Yeah. I mean, it was about 4 or 5 years ago I wrote this thing called Metamorphosis, because in the Course of Love it uses the metaphor of metamorphosis, and it's very apt. I mean, I use that to describe my own life. In terms of the caterpillar eating its way, eating, that's what we do, we consume, And I feel that we have gone through this process, and everybody's doing it in their own time. It's not a race, there's no competition here. But coming to a place where maybe what Journey is saying is it's time to break out of that cocoon now. You know, when you've broken down, because inside the cocoon, if you were to cut it open, it's not a half butterfly, half caterpillar. It is the primordial ooze. It's goo, you know, and the butterfly, the imaginal cells, that's what they're called, the imaginal realm that Mari talks about in A Course of Love. And the imaginal cells, I couldn't believe my eyes when I read that that's a scientific term for the cells that are there from the beginning of the caterpillar's life, but they don't break down. They are meant to be resilient, and they stay there while everything else breaks down. And when everything is broken down, they begin communicating with each other. They find each other, and together they hold the blueprint for the butterfly. That's amazing metaphor for me for what's happening in the world as people come awake and alive, trusting that we find each other. Because two or more, as you were saying earlier, and that's when the blueprint comes alive. That's what we're doing. We are each doing the best we can to be imaginal selves, you know, and transmitting, you know, our signal that we're ready, responding to the call.
Isn't that, you know, it's kind of what A Course of Love talks about. I think in the epilogue it talks about this, where it's not going to be real until you make it real.
Exactly.
You know, and it's that turning point where you step into it finally.
Right.
And
Yes.
instead of going back and forth.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. That place of sustenance.
Yes.
And
you know,
maintenance. Right.
It's also helpful for me to, you know, I mean, you know, I look back in my life and I've had my share of pain, as I'm sure you have, but those are the things that have helped me move forward to where I am now, right? And it's helpful for me to remember that in terms of what's happening to people out in the world now.
Absolutely.
You know, I think this is the needed message delivered in a harsh envelope that Journey talks about.
Yeah. Yeah. And compassion, our compassion makes a difference. Compassion without interfering in the process.
Yes.
But knowing what is ours to do or say, because there may be something you can do and say, but it's not to interfere with it's not to cut the cocoon before it's time.
Right. Right.
It works on its own. Exactly. But actually, this might be a good place. One of the things I just discovered the other day, listening to someone that, you know, in Journey, one of the things that bothered me a little bit, because it's used in pretty much every chapter, about mature souls. And I worry a little bit about how that comes across to people. Like, if there's mature souls, does that mean there are immature souls? And the answer is, yeah, there are young souls, immature souls. But what I heard was that the words good and bad, like going back to Adam and Eve, when the Bible was translated or whatever, when it was written down, the tree of good and evil. The translations don't work the way it was intended in English, because good and bad get to be like separate and disparate things. Whereas I understand that the Aramaic words originally meant ripe and unripe.
Oh, wonderful.
So do you throw away a green peach? Do you discard it and judge it because it's green? No, you nurture it. You put it in a brown paper bag. You keep it a little warm and you watch it every day until it's ripe. That's what this is all about. So for me, that was a beautiful way, going back to the Aramaic meaning of good and evil, the English words, which are ripe and unripe. So whenever you read the word mature in Journey, think ripe or ripening, and immature is unripe or less ripe or something.
Thank you.
Everything is already there. There's nothing to be added, but it just isn't ripe yet. It isn't time yet.
It's 3 o'clock. I gotta go.
Okay, yes, it's time to wrap up. Thank you
Nice
for being
meeting
here.
you, Stephen.
Nice meeting you.
Hope to see you here again.
This was a lovely conversation, a little
I
different
like our
from our
little
usual
chat.
one,
I
but it was
wouldn't miss
very
it for the
nice.
world.
Yes, yes, it was beautiful. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed your walk, John.
John, yes, John, it's nice to have you here. Hope you've enjoyed your walk. Hopefully one
When
day,
it rains, we'll see him when it
I
rains.
always say this to John, one day, John, maybe you'll stay at home somewhere where you have good Wi-Fi and we can see you and talk with you. That would be nice. All
We'll see
right.
you later, everybody.
And Stephen,
Bye.
I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Write
Take
to
care.
me. That's great.
Sure.
Bye now.